Good morning and welcome. This is Aso Morning. My name is Usman Katun Umar. Of course, Aso Morning is our flagship program where we get to discuss current affairs issues, starting with stories that made it to the front pages of our newspapers. And then, of course, we also have the segment where we get to join Dr. James Komolafe and his team for the behavioral check segment, where we get to, get a tip or two about how to be, healthier physically, mentally, and as the doctor will always say it, he's also known as Dr. Long Life, by the way, as he always put it, spiritually also. And thereafter, we'll get to do our first interview of the day on a topic of current matter, which of course concerns every Nigerian. Thereafter, we go join Investment Plus, where we get to learn tips about financial management. And that will be it on today's edition of the program. But before we kickstart, let's go on this very quick break. By the time we come back, it will be time for us to take a look at some of the stories that made it to the front pages of Nigerian newspapers. Do stay with us. We'll be right back.
We are a nation blessed with people of diverse cultures, religions, languages, and opinions. It is ironic that we are now being ripped apart by our greatest strength, our diversity. We have allowed intolerance, insensitivity, bigotry, and nepotism to blind our vision of the greatness we can achieve working together as one. We may not have the same culture, nor religion, nor language, but we all belong to the same nation by the divine will of God. We did not choose to be Nigerians. Nigeria chose us. This nation is our divine heritage, and if we open our eyes, we would realize that what divides us pales in comparison to what unites us. And by the comparison and conciliation of our differences, we will grow until our differences disappear. Our unity cannot be wielded by mere declarations, nor do we get unity by ignoring the questions that beg for answers. We must celebrate our diversity and debate our differences without fracturing our unity. Our strength is not in our numbers, but in our unity, because even the weak become strong when united. Nigeria unite.
This message is brought to you by Abuja Broadcasting Corporation, owners and operators of Aso Radio 93.5 FM Abuja, Aso Television DSTV Channel 392, Star Times Terrestrial Channel 127, Free TV Channel 507, People's TV Channel 285, and UHF Channel 38.
You're welcome back from that very short break on Aso Morning, and this is to welcome us back to the very first segment of the program, that is the newspaper review, where we get to take a look at some stories that made it to the front pages of some of our national dailies. And today we're starting with the Daily Times. The Daily Times is leading with this story: why Igbo won't protest against Tinubu by Umahi. Of course, Dave Umahi is the Minister for Works, and he is given reasons why the Igbo will not protest against Tinubu. If you read down the story, Umahi is given some reasons as to why the Igbo, that is the people of the Southeast, will not protest against President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, because according to him, the president is doing just by the people of the Southeast, mentioning a number of projects that the president is providing infrastructure in the Southeast and all of that. And he also mentioned appointments of key positions in his cabinet, and even the presidency generally, that the president has not neglected the Igbos. And he's also said that the president is continuing to provide the conducive environment for businesses to thrive in the region. He also went on to mention the issue of security, that the president has ensured that the lives of the people of the Southeast are relatively safer than they used to be, and therefore they have no reason to protest against the president. Rather, that the people of the Southeast are patient and are prayerful for the president to succeed, because according to him, the people of the Southeast believe that when the president succeeds, they also ultimately succeed at the end of the day. Now, above the masthead of the Daily Times, you have the story: Summit projects rapid growth in gas sector, reduction in domestic prices. Of course, the summit is ongoing in Qatar, where our President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is in attendance. And of course, this story is saying that from that summit, there is a projection growth in oil and gas sector, and there is also going to be reduction in domestic prices of oil and gas. We hope this comes to pass as quickly as possible. Now, let's go down below the front cover page of the Daily Times this morning. Hungry residents loot Abuja warehouse, vandalize facility. Of course, this story is the one we are very familiar with. Yesterday, stories were making the rounds about hoodlums attacking some warehouses. It started with a rumored attack on a NEMA facility in Karimo, but later, that is National Emergency Management Agency, came up and said no, their facility was not attacked. But eventually, confirmations came in that the warehouses that were attacked actually belonged to the FCT Agriculture and Rural Development Secretariat, where they have some of their grains stored. And of course, they believe that the hoodlums who attacked these places were hungry, according to this report. But there are divergent opinions as to the characters that will come together to launch an attack on a warehouse, a facility that is housing public goods, to loot whatever is it that is inside. And what happened yesterday was beyond even looting the food items that were inside. Windows, doors, and even roofing sheets were removed from some of the facilities attacked. And as we will get to see in some of the papers that had the pictures, you will see even the roofing sheets were removed from. So one is wondering, how is this connected to the idea of hunger in the land? Of course, there is no doubt. There is no doubt that things are hard, times are hard for a lot of people. But in the eye of the law, if you break into a facility that is not yours without any permission and take away materials that are inside, the reason your justification does not hold water, you are regarded as a law breaker, and the law will treat you accordingly. Your justification, again, does not matter. You cannot use hunger as excuse to become lawless. But at the same time, of course, we must admit that for a number of people, things are hard. We've also had very similar unpalatable reports, particularly the recent one from Zaria, where a group of people attacked a Dangote, a Boa truck that was conveying some bags of grains, and including pasta, and such lootings also happened in other parts. In other parts of, especially the northern Nigeria. Before then, we've had of Dangote trucks being attacked here and there, and all of that. And this is a wake-up call to the security agencies to rise up to the occasion, because it will not all go well for us as a people, as a country, if we allow this to continue unabated. Now, NEMA, as a result of all of this, NEMA had to strengthen security around its facility. For those who don't know, the National Emergency Management Agency, is a government-established agency that is in custody of emergency relief materials. Those materials are meant to be for emergencies. When we have disasters, this agency steps in to provide succor. So if we use the excuse of things are hard, there is no food, there is hunger, and then we allow some lawless individuals to spearhead these attacks, it will definitely not all go well. Now, from this report also, as we will see in other papers that took a deeper look at it, even shop owners in Abuja and other parts of the country are now apprehensive, because you don't know where is next. If they could attack government facilities with the excuse of hunger and we allow it, then definitely there is nowhere else is safe. So even business owners are at the risk of being attacked, getting their shops looted by lawless individuals. As far as I am concerned, I admit that yes, there is hunger in the land, but if you attack somebody's facility and take away whatever does not belong to you, you are a criminal in the eye of the law. There is no excusing that. If we are to demand for government intervention, there are There are more civilized ways of doing that, not by forming a mob, because it won't all go well for all of us at the end of the day. Of course, we have other stories to take a look at, because like I said, there are a number of other papers that also take a look at this particular story of warehouse looting. Now let's go down below the front page of the Daily Times. YEEL, that is expatriate employee levy, may be counterproductive. This is according to an expert. Remember that last week the presidency launched a booklet that specifies guidelines on expatriate employee levy, that those who work in Nigeria and those non-Nigerians who work in Nigeria must be guided by these guidelines as far as pay is concerned. Now, the situation in Nigeria has been that a qualified engineer in Nigeria working on the same project with maybe a technician who happens to be from abroad, from any other country, this qualified engineer in Nigeria will have to work under this expatriate who is a technician, and then the technician takes up the role of an engineer, and our own qualified engineer takes up the role of a technician, and this also goes into their pay grades. This technician, because he's an expatriate, earns higher than our qualified engineer. This has been the practice. People who don't even have any qualification at all, as long as you are white and you are referred to as expatriate, you get higher pay on the same job. Probably even our Nigerian workers even work more on the same project, but they earn lesser than their foreign counterparts. Then this guideline is now coming to say, nope, we must do things differently, because even though, of course, we want people to come into Nigeria, that should not let us to undermine the hard work of our own people. And if as long as the government intends to expand the cost of employment and add dignity to labor, definitely with regards to pay grade, they shouldn't be determined by whether you are an expatriate or not. And therefore, this expert, of course, he's also agreed. There are a number of other people who agree with him that if we continue this way, it will not all go well for us. But even as we have this in place, there are people who are saying that this will be counterproductive for Nigeria, like what this paper is saying on page 4, that Nigerians who are also working outside of the shores of the country, they are also enjoying this pay grade difference. And if Nigeria is to proceed with this, other countries will not wait a minute to also reciprocate, to say, well, since in your own country, people from our own country in your country are treated different, are not treated with the usual disparity in pay, you can't continue to also enjoy this disparity in pay and all of that. But whatever will be done to dignify labor, definitely the government should not look back and proceed with it. And having gone through some of the guidelines of the EEL, I believe strongly that this will actually add dignity to labor in Nigeria, where particularly in constructions and other works, it is part of the guideline is that if, for example, you have a project and there are qualified Nigerians that can execute that project, the law does not permit you to hand over the same project to a foreign company or a foreign worker. Let a Nigerian carry out that job as long as the Nigerian has shown competence and capability to be able to execute the same project. And I think this is very, very good for everyone, because at the end of the day, it is very unusual actually and counterproductive that you have a company that is a Nigerian, you have a worker that is a Nigerian who can effectively carry out a particular project, but because of our preference for anything foreign, you decide to go give that money to a foreigner. Definitely you are hurting the economy, because that foreigner, the money you pay him will not remain in Nigeria. The money will be repatriated back to their own country of origin. So if we go ahead to implement this, I think the benefits far outweighs whatever disadvantages that we may be seeing in the policy. Now moving on, in Qatar, Tinubu promises investment-friendly Nigeria. vows to combat graft. Detail of this is on page 4. Like I said from the beginning, the president is in Qatar and is making promises, marketing Nigeria out there, that Nigeria has best return on investment. Nigeria has investment-friendly atmosphere, and therefore inviting investors to come into Nigeria to invest. Next story, NDLEA nabs Vietnam-bound businessman with cocaine at Abuja airport. This happened on Saturday, I think, yes. A Vietnam-bound businessman was caught with a large parcel of cocaine at the Abuja airport. Also over the weekend, the NDLEA announced its largest interception ever. I'm sure we'll come across the story in the course of our review. And that's kudos to that agency that is doing so much in ensuring that drugs that are banned do not find their ways into Nigerian homes, because most of the drugs that are, these hard drugs, are not produced in Nigeria. They are trafficked from other countries into Nigeria or through Nigeria to other countries. And the NDLEA, Nigeria Customs Service, Nigeria Immigration Service, and the police are all there to ensure that all of these criminal, networks do not have a field day in order not to continue the ruining of our homes with drugs that are illicit. Finally, from the front page of the Daily Times, Reps Committee asks private airlines to refund 4 billion naira COVID-19 funds. Reps Committee asks private airlines to refund 4 billion naira COVID-19 funds. Of course, detail is on page 4. COVID-19 is a disease that keeps giving. Remember that the same committee has also written to a number of government agencies to refund monies in billions that were given to them in the name during that emergency period of fighting COVID-19. A lot of things, a lot of finances were expended without following financial guidelines as provided in our extant regulations. And therefore, this is the time for recompense, and the committee is not leaving any stone unturned, asking everyone that is involved to refund whatever is it that was given to them that was not accounted for. This time around, it's from private airlines to refund 4 billion naira. Let's move now quickly to This Day newspaper. This Day newspaper is leading today with IOC's indigenous producers seek expeditious resolution of all oil assets divestment deals. With the rider, OPEC Plus members agree to extend voluntary cuts to second quarter of 2024. We have detail of this on page 12 of This Day newspaper. But another story there, at executive session with Emir of Qatar, Tinubu woos foreign investors, says Nigeria ready for business. Still some meals from Qatar, as you may want to call it, with the rider urges Qatari investors to report to him any official that impedes progress or asks for gratification. And the last rider witnesses signing of 7 bilateral agreements on investment promotion, mining, youth empowerment, sport, tourism, education, and enterprise development. Quite a number of bilateral agreements signed there between Nigerian business entities and Qatari business entities, and that's a plus actually for the president's visits to Qatar. We hope that all of this begin to show fruits as soon as possible, because Nigeria definitely can make do with some of these investments to be able to give citizens some opportunity to breathe, as the president will say, let the poor breathe. Of course, a couple of other stories. Let's take a look at this story. It's above the masthead of This Day newspaper. CBN over subscription of open market bills, show of confidence in economy. Oversubscription of open market bills, show of confidence in economy. Definitely, detail of this is also on page 12. The Central Bank of Nigeria there is, of course, indicating that oversubscription of open market bills is an indication that there is still confidence in the economy, despite all negatives that are being churned out there. about Nigeria's economy. Another story, 42 million SIM cards barred across telecom networks in 5 days. Detail is on page 14. The telecoms, of course, the NCC, Nigeria Communications Commission, has been, in the forefront of advising people who have not done their NIN and have not aligned their SIM cards with their national identification numbers to do so, else they risk losing those lines. And 42 million SIM cards barred across telecom networks in 5 days. Detail is on page 14. Of course, there is a picture there of the former President Olusegun Obasanjo and Mr. Peter Obi, who are flanking the chief imam of Egbaland, His Eminence Sheikh Alhaji Muhammad Sa'ad Alade Olanikpekun Bamigbola. Of course, it was during the anniversary of his 90th birthday over the weekend. You have the former president there and the presidential aspirant, or the presidential candidate rather, of the Labour Party in the 2023 presidential election. We take leave of this day newspaper to go to the Daily Trust newspaper quickly. The Daily Trust is leading with this story. Residents loot Abuja warehouses, steal foodstuffs, roofing sheets. Good rider, National Emergency Management Agency beefs up security at own facilities nationwide. Another rider, express your feelings responsibly. Vice President Shetima urges citizens. Last rider, address hunger, poverty, insecurity. Jibwis tells government. Jibwis is, of course, Jama'atul Izadatu Bid'ah wa Ikamatu Sunnah. That is Jibwis telling government. Address hunger, poverty, insecurity. We've talked about this story before, but there is no any scene talking about it again. Like we said yesterday, it was all over the news about how some residents decided to take the laws into their own hands and attacked some warehouses where they looted foodstuffs and even roofing sheets. That's a very bad testimony on how responsible citizens should behave, even though, of course, we may say we have justification for this. But just imagine all residents of the FCT, or all Nigerians, all of us who are facing this difficulty, deciding to attack facilities where foodstuffs are being warehoused, or attack people's shops, and when we are asked, we say it's because there is hunger in the land. Just imagine that scenario, and you will understand that the law must continue to prevail, regardless of whatever. As much as government is trying its best to address the biting economic hardship, the citizens must also exercise some form of restraint. Like the Vice President said, you must express your dissatisfaction responsibly. It must be your anger, whatever is it that you are feeling against government, must be expressed responsibly. Because if we all decide to go the irresponsible route, there will be chaos, there will be lawlessness, and you can never tell where that will lead us, all of us, to. Other stories on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper. You have Customs open 90-day window for vehicle regularization. Detail is on page 4. Man who returned 100 million naira gifted Hajj slot cash. Man who returned 100 million naira gifted Hajj slot and cash. Detail is on page 6. Hisba strong push for Daurawa's return. Detail is on page 6. Of course, the drama playing out in Kano, particularly with the leadership of the morality police in Kano, that is Hisba. It's a government board established to, of course, watch out and ensure that certain acts of misconduct are not tolerated. And of course, the board has been active lately, but a drama played out where, of course, the board did its own job by arresting some individuals, only for some form of intervention to lead to the release of certain characters among those who were, arrested by the Hisba officials, operatives. And of course, The governor himself, in an audio message, I think on an audio message, came out to condemn the way the operatives carried out some of those arrests and all of that. And of course, the leadership, Sheikh Aminu Daurawa, who is the leader, the head of the of Hizbah in Kano, felt this was an undue interference. And a lot of people, a lot of commentators who have also commented on the matter said, well, the governor erred in the sense that even if you have reservations about the operation, you are the one who appointed this man, a very responsible and highly regarded scholar in Kano. And even not just in Kano, in the whole of West Africa, the whole of Islamic West Africa. Dr. Sheikh Daurawa is not a small name. So you are the one who appointed this man here, and he accepted this in trust. So if there are, misgivings about how the operatives carry out these activities, instead of playing to the gallery, because that's what the governor did practically, playing to the gallery, coming out so that what? I don't know, but it was a very, very bad, it was in bad taste. You could reach out to Sheikh Daurawa and, give your advice on how things could be done better in your view, that is. But going public and making such comments and statements undermined the integrity of this revered scholar. And of course, Dr. Daurawa did not waste time to, of course, say he was going to resign from the position because he knew that he did what he thought was best for the board. But of course, there are a lot of influential people who are calling on the revered scholar not to just give up because he's not doing it for the governor. Sometimes some of these things happen. If you are on the path of doing good, definitely you may likely meet challenges like this that will tempt you to say, I am handing over or I'm handing off this responsibility. But it is a trust given to him by the governor. But most importantly, I believe strongly that this is a trust given to Dr. Daurawa by God himself to, of course, lead that board to ensure that there is sanity in Kano, because Kano was actually becoming something else, where reports have it that people from even other countries troop into Kano to commit all sorts of atrocities, particularly with respect to immoralities and all of that. And Kano is not known for that. What Kano is known for is Kano is a hub for Islamic scholarship, and therefore that was the function that Hizbah was supposed to emphasize. So if in the course of carrying out this responsibility, certain things are being done in a way that the governor is not comfortable with, we do not think that it's in the best interest of the board or its leadership that the governor will go public with such comments. Rather, the governor would have summoned the leadership of the board to a meeting. Even privately, he could have just called, and I'm very sure, given the kind of person that Sheikh Ibrahim Daurawa is, I do not think that he would reject the governors, and he would definitely explain to the governor why the operations have to be carried out in that manner. And if there are corrections, he will definitely heed to it. But I personally pray that Dr. Daurawa listens to the voice of reason and do not let go of this responsibility, because he has done very well so far with the Hizbah. We hope that wisdom prevails at the end of the day. Of course, you have the story again on the front page of the Daily Trust. War on Gaza. Israel kills Palestinians collecting aid. War on Gaza. Israel kills Palestinians collecting aid. The detail of this is on page 28. And just below the masthead, you have Tinubu to investors. Report any official who demand bribe. NEF cautions against relocation of firefighting equipment. Lastly, Lobby Stars stun Katsina United 2-0 to regain top spot. Of course, that's a very match that I watched. I don't want to express my feelings here, but it is what it is in football anyway. Next paper for us to take a look at is the Vanguard newspaper. And the Vanguard is leading this morning. Federal government fights inflation, mops up 5 trillion naira. With the rider to raise interest rate, reprise fixed income yields, CBN meets foreign investors over FX reforms, MPR hike, says there will be free entry and exit. Detail of all of this is on page 19. So much going on there in the financial sector led by the CBN. Above the masthead of the Vanguard newspaper, how Osoba facilitated my emergence as Alake Oba Gbadebo. Detail of this is on page 11. Nigeria, Qatar sign agreement on education, solid minerals, others. Page 5 and 31. With the rider Tinubu to Qatar investors. Report any bribe-seeking cabinet member. Of course, COVID-19 probe refund or account for 4 billion naira. Reps still tell airlines. Detail of that is on page 11. And below the front page picture, which has wife of the Senate President, Mrs. Ekaite Akpabio, wife of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mrs. Regina Akume, and indeed the Secretary to the Government of the Federation himself, Senator George Akume, and former head of state and convener of the Bouquet of Honor, that is General Yakubu Gowon, during the award ceremony at the International Conference Center in Abuja over the weekend. Below that picture, you have only implementation of agreement will stop nationwide strike. Labour NLC, that is Nigeria Labour Congress, insists there. Page 9 has more on that. Misinformation undermining military's fight against terrorism. This is coming from Chief of Defense Staff. Detail is on page 8. Abuja residents break into government warehouse. Of course, we've talked about this before. Rivers United survive Dreams FC scare, qualify for knockout stage. This is sports, and it's on page 39 of the Vanguard newspaper. And this is the much we have on Vanguard newspaper as we quickly switch over to the Nation newspaper, which is leading this morning with Nigeria clearing obstacles to investment, says President. Nigeria clearing obstacles to investment, says President. Country offers best return on business. Country offers best return on business in the world. Another rider, pacts signed with Qatar in education, solid minerals, others. We've talked about this. This is an update from the president's visit to Qatar. Over there, right there, you have a picture of the president sitting there with Qatari officials, and of course, his Minister for Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Yusuf Tugda, putting pen to paper for Nigeria, while the Qatari leader and the Nigerian leader look on right there. Of course, you have a couple of other stories. Let's take a look at over the masthead of the Nation newspaper. Aspirant Aida Tiwa clash over governor's certificate. Another story. ICPC quizzes government officials over missing 3.4 billion naira IMF loan. Another story. Fire raises 50 acres of palm trees, pineapples worth 150 million naira in Osun. 2 policemen beaten to death. Detail on page 26. Food looted in Abuja warehouses. Detail also on page 26 of the Nation newspaper. Another story. Importers get 90-day window to pay duties on vehicle. Detail is on page 4. Cement manufacturers declare 710 billion naira profit. Sales hit 3.1 trillion naira in 12 months. That's quite some money right there. No wonder the president has given them an order to revert to old price, because they could. With all of this profit, they should be able to do that. Of course, that's the much of the stories that the Nation newspaper has on its front page. But quickly, before we call it quits on today's edition, we must take a look at this particular story on Daily Sun newspaper. The Daily Sun newspaper is leading this story. NIN BVN banks send fresh reminders. With riders 91 million accounts at risk of deactivation. Another rider, no account blocked yet, says deposit money banks. Another rider, give customers more time. This is coming from Beacon. Of course, a lot is going on there in the banking sector as well as in the telecom sector. The account owners are supposed to link their NIN, National Identification Number, with bank verification numbers. Those who have not done so should quickly visit their banks and do so before their account get blocked. Beside the masthead of the Daily Sun newspaper, why Southeast won't protest against Tinubu? This is coming from Omahi. We've touched on this before. Now a raft of stories right there. Setup sues Tinubu over failure to probe missing 3.4 billion naira IMF loan. Detail is on page 6. Nigeria signs multi-sectoral agreements with Qatar. Detail is also on page 26. Report any official who obstructs progress, asks for a bribe. This is coming from President Tinubu while in Qatar. And then Nigeria, India, trade volume may hit $20 billion over Eyimba economic city, says investor. Federal government approves 90-day window for payment of duty on improperly imported vehicles. Whatever that means, detail is on page 2. Security beef up in NEMA offices over looted warehouse. We've touched on this. FCT police nab 15, recover 26 bags of maize. Others. Detail there also on page 6. Upward Law students shine at 2023 bar exam. Scores 94%, record 21 first class and 69 second class upper division. Detail is on page 6. Tinubu, Obi Soludo, others mourn Nollywood actors, Mr. Ibu and Sisi Kadiri. Detail is on page 29. Reps move to strip president governor's power to proclaim dissolve assembly. Of course, cooking gas price to crash as NLG begins sale at LPG in Naira. We hope this comes to pass as quickly as possible. Next paper, the Guardian newspaper. Of course, is conscience nurtured by truth. It's their motto. And it's leading this morning with Nigeria's terrorism index. Terror attacks decline amid new recruitment, rise in violent conflict. Detail is on page 6, but there is an infographic picture there showing 10 countries most impacted by terrorism. Of course, Nigeria by GTI ranking is number 8, and by GTI score, Nigeria is 7.575. Definitely, there has been a decline in terrorism recruitment, but there has also been a rise in conflicts in parts of the country. You also have these pictures there of the looted warehouses. You could also see right there one of the warehouses where even the roofing sheets were not left out. They were removed by the looters. Of course, Nigeria Police Force intervened, and as we read earlier, 15 people have been arrested and 26 bags of grains have also been recovered so far. Hardship, military, paramilitary to distribute food as hoodlums loot warehouses. Detail is on page 6. Of course, recall that the federal government had ordered the release of some very plenty tons of assorted grains from the National Reserve. Of course, military and paramilitary are to spearhead the distribution of these grains, as the distribution is scheduled to commence across the country this week. Blame governors for restructuring delay economic downturn. News of this is on page 20. It's on page 5. Banditry. Police place 50 million naira bounty on 2 kingpins in Katsina. Police place 50 million naira bounty on 2 kingpins in Katsina. Expert blames social media for mass failure in WAEC. Others. Expert blames social media for mass failure in WAEC. Expert is saying there. Of course, this year's WAEC, massive failure has been reported across the country, and expert who has taken a look at this development is saying social media, especially by the young people who are supposed to read seriously for these exams, is accountable, largely responsible for the the very abysmal performance of these students during these examinations. And you can't actually argue that so much, because reading for WAEC especially, and all of these examinations require a whole lot of another level of concentration, which the social media these days does not permit. You just don't want to hear your phone beep. Even when you are reading, you want to check out the notifications. Even as you are reading, your mind is 90% on your phone, even when you are not holding it. So it's a serious addiction. It's a serious problem that is aiding young people, particularly, to waste away their very productive years. Before they realize it, the time is gone. And this abysmal performance in WAEC will also reflect in other examinations, and consequently reflect on the quality of life that they are able to build for themselves. Because, when you stay too much on social media, on your phone, on your gadgets and all of that, the quality time that you are supposed to use to build very meaningful relationships, whether with yourself, with your God and others, you waste that precious time on social media. And most times, the things that actually get us addicted to these screens, if you look at it at the end of the day, they are not things that actually add any positivity to our lives as people. At the end of the day, you realize that time is gone, particularly when you are addicted to all of these apps on your phone, from Facebook, Instagram, X, formerly known as Twitter, what is it called? Just lover, very stories that do not have any connection to your life as a human being. You waste your time on them, and at the end of the day, you can't account for that time. You can't account for how positively you've impacted your life with that amount of time that you've wasted. And when a day is gone, it's gone, and that's part of your given days on earth. So it's not a surprising thing. The expert is not too far from the truth that social media addiction is largely responsible for mass failure, not just in WAEC, but in the education sector as we have it today. And surprisingly, this is a period where access to information is very easy. Some of us who studied for these examinations at a time when the internet was still just, coming in, and access to internet was until you were able to go to a cafe. You don't have access to internet. We would have cherished the opportunity to have access to information, as it were, today. Because at your fingertip now, the whole entire library of the world is in your phone, as long as you have data. 100 naira can get you access to tons of thousands of books and materials you can read for any exam in this world. But instead of all of those productive engagements, youngsters these days are more interested in, other things that do not, at the end of the day, add value. Entertainment especially is the key. You just want to know about what's going on in the lives of celebrities whose daily living have little or no connection to your existence as a human being. But of course, the dopamine you get when you get exposed to those things, it keeps you going and going and going. And before you know, that scrolling, it keeps scrolling and scrolling. Before you know, you check your time. 1 hour becomes like 10 minutes. 1 hour is gone. It's already 12, 1 o'clock. And before you know, generally, you've wasted a substantial part of your day on phones. But this is a clarion call to parents, especially from when they are little, for us to take cognizance of how much time we allow these youngsters to be exposed to devices, internet-enabled devices. Because at the end of the day, it counts. It counts. We are not even talking about the ills, eye problems that they end up with. We're not talking about the consistent and persistent headache that exposure to these rays on the screen, leads to. We're talking about, first of all, the impact of the amount of time that we waste on these devices. Its impact on our lives generally. We're just talking, this is just education. Children who are supposed to sit and read for WAEC, they get busy on social media platforms and have very little time, if at all they have, for studying for their examination. So this expert, you may want to read more on this on page 9 of the Guardian newspaper. And of course, a couple of other stories on still on the front page of the Guardian. Teachers, endless wait for federal government's promises of improved salary, welfare. Endless wait for federal government's promises of improved salary, welfare. Detail of this is a news analysis actually by The Guardian on page 4. States should account for money they receive. Editorial of The Guardian newspaper is insisting. Telecoms may lose 83 billion naira monthly over disconnected phone lines. Detail of this is on page 3 of the newspaper, The Guardian newspaper. Now quickly, we take a look at Abuja Inquirer. Abuja Inquirer is leading this morning. Abuja warehouse looting, panic grips business owners. Abuja warehouse looting, panic grips business owners. NEMA beefs security around warehouses nationwide. Of course, we've talked about this before. There you also have a picture of the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Barrister Ezenwo Nyesom-Wike, in a very warm handshake with the British High Commissioner to Nigeria, Dr. Richard Montgomery, during a visit of the letter, that is the British High Commissioner, to the office of the Minister of the FCT. Of course, above the masthead of the Abuja Inquirer at 20, journalism of consistency, excellence. This is a front page comment by the newspaper. And this brings us to the end of this particular segment of the program, the newspaper review segment. We will go on a quick break. During that break, we'll be joining Dr. James Komalafe on the behavioral check segment. You will do yourself a world of good to call your family members, your friends, to tune in at this moment, because you're about to get some tips on how to be mentally, physically, and spiritually healthier, with tips from Dr. Long Life himself. We'll be right back after that segment.
Good day out there. Great to meet you on this platform today. I am Esther Jolomi, the optimal coach for family, lifestyle, and workplace productivity. I bring you greetings from the School of Articulation and Behavioral Alignment Intervention Resource Hub here in Abuja. And it's a place where we handle the good, the bad, and the ugly. And today I bring you an exciting but critical topic: behavioral, or the dangers of behavioral violation. Now, what is behavioral violation? Behavioral violation is a departure from the normal protocol which makes up an individual. It is a departure from your normal habits that you have already established for over a period of time. Could be in your marriage, in your place of work, as an individual, just yourself, the normal self that you know. And when there is a violation of this behavior, it means that it is taking you from out of your normal comfort zone to a different zone entirely, where you are now put under pressure or you are under stress in order to achieve a target, in order to reach a milestone that you have put out there. And these violations, I want to tell you, might be good in a short time, but bad when you allow it to stay over time. Now, these violations can come in the form of stress, and stress is accumulated over a period of time. I want to let you know that stress can be good if it is there to just give you that boost where you meet an immediate timeline. But when you begin to violate yourself and you begin to deviate from your normal self and put yourself under tension, under pressure all the time to meet deadlines, you are now in that bad violation. You have accumulated bad behavior and you are violating yourself. Now, the point of violation of your normal protocol is a bad order in your life, because it makes you veer off from your usual behavior, your normal self. And at the end of the day, you find yourself packing up habits that you are not supposed to. You find yourself exerting pressure on your normal self. Now, this violation, you will say, where do I violate at a point in time? You violate at a point in time where you start within your normal self and then begin to go off. And that point of going off is called the bad. That is where you violate yourself. And when you do that, you begin to have anxiety, you begin to be in a hurry, you are no longer at peace within yourself, and you begin to act it up. I want to let you know that this gap you create in your mind will make you accumulate so much that at the long run, it will be bad for your health, internally, externally, within your community, and within friends and families that you have around. When this happens to you, you need therapy. Now, I am myself experts in behavioral therapy, experts in depression, experts in just making sure that your lifestyle is in harmony with yourself, are here to administer, to attend, to bring you back to your equilibrium. Are you trapped in any of these issues? Do you find yourself always on the hype, always on the high, always in motion, and you are not at peace within yourself trying to meet up deadlines? Never mind, I'm just a phone call away, and you can reach me on 070-3833-0907. Once again, 070-3833-0907. I and my team of experts are ready to attend to you 24/7. It's hands-on, and we will treat you and bring you back to your normal so that you can function and have life at its best. Today, I hope that you got value for this episode, and I thank you very much. Don't forget to reach out to me on 070-3833-0907. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, last Saturday, the country which I have the honor to represent, the Federation of Nigeria, became independent and assumed the rights and the responsibilities of a sovereign state. Today, Nigeria has been admitted into the United Nations organization and assumes still more responsibilities. I wish to make our position plain beyond any matter of doubt as regards the African continent. We in Nigeria appreciate the advantages which the size of our country and of its population give us, but we have absolutely no aggressive intentions. We shall never impose ourselves upon any other country, and shall treat every African territory, big or small, as our equal, because we honestly feel that it is only on that basis of equality that peace can be maintained in our continent. We in Nigeria are a populous country. There are about 40 million of us, and our territory is relatively large. We are willing to learn before we rush into the field of international politics. But we are totally unwilling to be diverted from the ideals which we think true. That is the reason, Mr. President, why we in Nigeria shall not be found to align ourselves as a matter of routine with any particular bloc. Indeed, I hate the very idea of blocs existing at all in the United Nations. It seems to me to be a contradiction in terms. When we hear the world crying out for peace, we may receive the inspiration to deal with these intractable problems and be able really to devote all our resources to the advancement of mankind by applying those eternal truths which will inevitably persist long after we ourselves are utterly forgotten. Thank you, Mr. President.
The welfare of millions of people for generations to come may be affected by the wisdom which we here display. If Nigerian leaders and our British partners are to prove themselves worthy of their trust, now is the time for us solemnly and truly to dedicate ourselves to seeking the greatest good of the greatest number of our people in Nigeria. Independence for Nigeria in 1960 is imperative. But independence for Nigeria as a corporate entity is not enough. The peoples of Nigeria must at the same time be guaranteed their freedom. We must ensure that in an independent Nigeria, individual citizens throughout the land enjoy liberty, human dignity, and equality under the law. There must be one Nigeria with one constitution and one law for all. Let us therefore, Mr. Chairman, sir, close our ears to the counsel of despair, which says that we cannot here at this conference agree on a constitution. If there's any doubt among us as to what should be written into the constitution, let us, as Democrats that we profess ourselves to be, refer such problems, as the goal has done recently, to the people whom we profess to represent, either just before or at the federal elections late in 1959.
Our first efforts at democracy and self-government were abruptly arrested in the mid-60s, largely as a result of the incongenial atmosphere engendered by the uncompromising stance adopted by the political parties of the First Republic. Thus, opportunities were lost for our people to interact and learn to accommodate different points of view for the betterment of the country. We must not allow that episode to repeat itself. The new system that will have adopted presents us with yet another opportunity to achieve national integration, which is a prerequisite for the building of a strong and virile nation.
Is the need to revive the stature of man in Africa and restore the dignity of man in the world. Nigerians believe passionately in the fundamental human rights. We regard all races of the human family as equal. Under no circumstance shall we accept the idea that the black race is inferior to any other race. I appeal to all our leaders, far and near, to forget the wounds which were inflicted in cause of our internecine altercation. The love of our country should outweigh the love of our petty selves. The enjoyment of individual freedom under the law should mean more to us than our self-centered party programs and manifestos. Common dangers and common enemies alert us on the need for common security. Come and join Abubakar with me, Sadauna, Awolowo, Akitala, Osarebe, Okpara, Iteku, Aminu Kano, Ibrahim Imam, and Saka. Let us bind the nation's wound and let us heal the breaches of the past so that in forging our nation, there shall emerge on this continent a hate-free, fear-free, and greed-free people who shall be in the vanguard of a world task force whose assignment is not only to revive the stature of man in Africa, but to restore the dignity of man in the world.
This month, there is something new and exciting for everyone.
His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will continue to engage with heads of state.
Wake up to current realities on Aso Morning, 8 to 10 a.m. weekdays.
What problem do you have with NAFDAC?
Long life is your heritage.
This thing should be interrogated.
Enjoy the latest sport news, live results, updates, and comments as you experience the frenzy of your favorite game on Aso Sport at 10 a.m.
Oh, another knockdown! Israel Adesanya knocks Derek Brunson out in round one.
What do you make of the latest in the world of transfer?
Get a hold of the latest news stories of the day as we go beyond the basic facts, bringing to you incisive, in-depth, and analytical reportage on Aso Briefing every midday.
And so we're trying to see how we can map our strategies.
Thanks for joining today's edition of Aso Briefing.
Unwind with the sounds of Africa at 1 p.m. Symbolic of Mama Africa's history, culture, genealogy, and musical evolution.
No pleasure comes from pain. No money fall like rain.
The afternoon edition keeps you locked on with news analysis and interpretative journalism at its very best.
I think management is management.
The economy of Nigeria is greater than the entire ECOWAS countries.
Crown it all at 3 p.m. with the news at 3.
Because we are here holding government offices in trust.
This month, whether it's news, sports, drama, cartoon and children's series, cooking shows, musicals, soaps, documentaries, or current affairs, make it Aso Television. DSTV Channel 392. Star Times Terrestrial Channel 127, Free TV Channel 507, and UHF Channel 38. We are a nation blessed with people of diverse cultures, religions, languages, and opinions. It is ironic that we are now being ripped apart by our greatest strength, our diversity. We have allowed intolerance, insensitivity, bigotry, and nepotism to blind our vision of the greatness we can achieve working together as one. We may not have the same culture, nor religion, nor language, but we all belong to the same nation by the divine will of God. We did not choose to be Nigerians. Nigeria chose us. This nation is our divine heritage, and if we open our eyes, we would realize that what divides us pales in comparison to what unites us. And by the comparison and conciliation of our differences, we will grow until our differences disappear. Our unity cannot be wielded by mere declarations, nor do we get unity by ignoring the questions that beg for answers. We must celebrate our diversity and debate our differences without fracturing our unity. Our strength is not in our numbers, but in our unity, because even the weak become strong when united. Nigeria unite.
This message is brought to you by Abuja Broadcasting Corporation, owners and operators of Aso Radio 93.5 FM Abuja, Aso Television DSTV Channel 392, Star Times Terrestrial Channel 127, Free TV Channel 507, People's TV Channel 285, and UHF Channel 38.
Of Nigeria as a free state in 20th century Africa is the need to revive the stature of man in Africa and restore the dignity of man in the world. Nigerians believe passionately in the fundamental human rights. We regard all races of the human family as equal. Under no circumstance shall we accept the idea that the black race is inferior to any other race. I appeal to all our leaders, far and near, to forget the wounds which were inflicted in cause of our internecine altercations. The love of our country should outweigh the love of our petty selves. The enjoyment of individual freedom under the law should mean more to us than our self-centered party programs and manifestos. Common dangers and common enemies alert us on the need for common security. Come and join Abubakar with me, Sadauna, Awolowo, Akitala, Okarebe, Okpara, Itoku, Aminu Kano, Ibrahim Imam, and Tata. Let us bind the nation's wound and let us heal the breaches of the past so that in forging our nation, there shall emerge on this continent a hate-free, fear-free, and greed-free people who shall be in the vanguard of a world task force whose assignment is not only to revive the stature of man in Africa, but to restore the dignity of man in the world.
The welfare of millions of people for generations to come may be affected by the wisdom which we here display. If Nigerian leaders and our British partners are to prove themselves worthy of their trust, now is the time for us solemnly and truly to dedicate ourselves to seeking the greatest good of the greatest number of our people in Nigeria. Independence for Nigeria in 1960 is imperative. But independence for Nigeria as a corporate entity is not enough. The peoples of Nigeria must at the same time be guaranteed their freedom. We must ensure that in an independent Nigeria, individual citizens throughout the land enjoy liberty, human dignity, and equality under the law. There must be one Nigeria with one constitution and one law for all. Let us therefore, Mr. Chairman, sir, close our ears to the counsel of despair, which says that we cannot here at this conference agree on a constitution. If there's any doubt among us as to what should be written into the constitution, let us, as Democrats that we profess ourselves to be, refer such problems, as the goal has done recently, to the people whom we profess to represent, either just before or at the federal elections late 1959.
We are a nation blessed with people of diverse cultures, religions, languages, and opinions. It is ironic that we are now being ripped apart by our greatest strength, our diversity. We have allowed intolerance, insensitivity, bigotry, and nepotism to blind our vision of the greatness we can achieve working together as one. We may not have the same culture, nor religion, nor language, but we all belong to the same nation by the divine will of God. We did not choose to be Nigerians. Nigeria chose us. This nation is our divine heritage, and if we open our eyes, we would realize that what divides us pales in comparison to what unites us. And by the comparison and conciliation of our differences, we will grow until our differences disappear. Our unity cannot be willed by mere declarations, nor do we get unity by ignoring the questions that beg for answers. We must celebrate our diversity and debate our differences without fracturing our unity. Our strength is not in our numbers, but in our unity, because even the weak become strong when united. Nigeria unite.
This message is brought to you by Abuja Broadcasting Corporation, owners and operators of Aso Radio 93.5 FM Abuja, Aso Television DSTV Channel 392, Star Times Terrestrial Channel 127, Free TV Channel 507, People's TV Channel 285, and UHF Channel 38.
Mr. President, last Saturday, the country which I have the honor to represent, the Federation of Nigeria, became independent and assumed the rights and the responsibilities of a sovereign state. Today, Nigeria has been admitted into the United Nations organization and assumes still more responsibilities. I wish to make our position plain beyond any matter of doubt as regards the African continent. We in Nigeria appreciate the advantages which the size of our country and of its population give us, but we have absolutely no aggressive intentions. We shall never impose ourselves upon any other country and shall treat every African territory, big or small, as our equal, because we honestly feel that it is only on that basis of equality that peace can be maintained in our continent. We in Nigeria are a populous country. There are about 40 million of us, and our territory is relatively large. We are willing to learn before we rush into the field of international politics. But we are totally unwilling to be diverted from the ideals which we think true. That is the reason, Mr. President, why we in Nigeria shall not be found to align ourselves as a matter of routine with any particular bloc. Indeed, I hate the very idea of blocs existing at all in the United Nations. It seems to me to be a contradiction in terms. When we hear the world crying out for peace, we may receive the inspiration to deal with these intractable problems and be able really to devote all our resources to the advancement of mankind. by applying those eternal truths which will inevitably persist long after we ourselves are utterly forgotten. Thank you, Mr. President.
This month, there is something new and exciting for everyone.
His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will continue to engage with heads of state.
Wake up to current realities on Aso Morning, 8 to 10 a.m. weekdays.
What problem do you have with NAFDAC?
Long life is your heritage.
Enjoy the latest sport news, live results, updates, and comments as you experience the frenzy of your favorite game on Aso Sport at 10 a.m.
Oh, another knockdown! Israel Adesanya knocks Derek Brunson out in round one.
What do you make of the latest in the world of transfer?
Get a hold of the latest news stories of the day as we go beyond the basic facts, bringing to you in.
Welcome you back from that elongated break. It was due to some technical challenges in trying to connect with our guest for the day. Just to tell you how important it is for us to connect with this person so that we will be able to have this conversation on this very important matter. Recall that about last week or so, the president, that is President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, announced that the Orosanya report of that have been in the docks for years now. Presidential directive has been given for the implementation of the parts of that report that will align with the current realities. And there were briefs and briefs upon briefs by government representatives, and there are also talks about merging some parastatals and scrapping some, as the case may be. So a lot of talks have been ongoing about the possibilities, the outcomes that may follow when this is fully implemented. Essentially, there have been fears that many Nigerians will lose their jobs because when these mergers happen, some people may not be found useful in the new arrangements that will emerge from these mergers. And for the agencies that will be scrapped, as the case may be, the workers there will be left stranded and all of that. So in order to discuss this, we've invited an expert who, of course, will be able to give us some explanations about the plans and expectations of these mergers of MDAs. Of course, we've invited Dr. M.D. Eseyin. He is the National President, Public Office Holders Association of Nigeria. He's joining us via Skype. Good morning, Dr. Eseyin Adeola. It's good to have you.
Hey, thank you for having me, and thank you, viewers.
All right. Let me start from the beginning. How did this news of implementation of the Orosanya report come to you as a public office holder in Nigeria?
Anyway, I am not surprised because this has been on for quite a while. And if you remember, this report is not a report of 1 or 2 or 3 years. It takes a government that truly want to deliver to the yearnings of the people to implement a report that even they themselves will be affected. Why did I say that? Ministries that are being paraded, are they actually working to optimization? Are they having effect on the masses? The essence of government, as they say, is the security and welfare of the people. And when these two things are lacking, then it means that the government is not working. And for putting the government, for putting the committee together, it was a very giant step in the right direction. For implementation has become a very terrible something to... can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, okay. So implementation has become an issue. So most government will come and look at it that will be affected. Why are they deciding away from the reality? And they are doing that because they want to win second time election. But the current president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has taken the bull by the horn by implementing the report. And what is the report saying? The report is simply
Doctor, if I may come in here, of course, the essence of the implementation of that report, as alleged, is to cut cost of governance and to make most of these MDAs more effective, as it were. But fingers have also been pointed at the present administration's size of cabinet members. This is the largest we've had so far, and a lot of people are saying, why didn't the president start from the size of his own cabinet, but went directly to implementing a report, which a number of other public officials or public commentators have also said has been overtaken by events over the years. What do you have to say to that?
Well, the government is being run by the government of the country is being run by I'm trying to get a very perfect word to use. Are being by constitution. So you cannot come in and then you cannot climb the tree from the top. We start from the bottom, if you get me correctly. So it's essential that when you come on board, you follow the constitution. So in following the constitutions, if you want to actually have more effects and given dividend of democracy to the people, then you have to implement a report that will make your work feasible to the people. So that at the end of the day, second time or not, people would have adjudged that you have done well. So coming on board, it is mandatory that every state
making it give or take 37 members, but we have more than 37 ministers in Nigeria as at today, don't we?
Come again. I lost today.
Okay, I said I agree with your assertion that a government is run by the Constitution, which specifies that ministers must come from across the states. And I say we have 36 states in Nigeria and the Federal Capital Territory, making it 37. And again, kudos to this administration. For the first time, we have a representative from the FCT in the Federal Executive Council, making it 37. Are you saying that 37 ministers are not enough to run the government as against the number that we currently have?
That is not all. It is not just about having a representative from 36 states of the Federation. It is also expected that we have each minister from
Hello, sir. Well, the network appears to be freezing. But if I get your point, you are saying that it's more than just having ministers from the 36 states of the Federation. And if I heard you correctly before the network froze, you are saying that there is also requirement for representation from the geopolitical zones. Is that correct?
That's what is expected. That's what the Constitution says. That is why you see some geopolitical zones. You see some states are having 2 ministers. You see some are having, some are even having 3 in some cases. To understand that government is by patronage because it's democracy. Democracy in the sense that you have to vote to get to the office. And in Nigeria, when you don't patronize people that work for you, then you are tactically digging your grave to get second-time ticket. So the man at the helm of affairs are also looking at how he can come back. He's also looking at how he can also deliver. So I think in all, our constitution need to be reviewed so that ensuring that anybody that is coming on board is coming to work. It is not coming to make patronage. It's not coming to give patronage for people that voted for them. You understand what I'm saying? So it is
Yes,
whole
I
lot
do.
of problems. You know,
well,
it is
so
whole lot
now
of
you
problems that
are
we're facing
happy
in the
more
country.
on political expediency, that most of these appointments of ministers and all of that are made in consideration for a second term, so to speak. Now, why shouldn't this also now apply to the existing ministries, departments, and agencies of government that are about to either be scrapped or collapsed as a result of implementation of this Orosenyan's report? Mind you, there is definitely going to be the report, if it is to be implemented as recommended, will definitely lead to removing some people from jobs, making them jobless, because according to the report, those ministries, those departments, some of these ministries, some of the departments are redundant, and therefore, in order for government to save money, those people have to be let go. Don't you think this will also have an impact on the political expediency which you are alluding to?
Well, those people we are talking about, we are also talking about public office holders. We're talking about civil servants, talking offices. So the point is that when the government to do is the government they are to look inward and make essence of their being in government to ensure that the government of the dividend of democracy is fed by the people. So if you look at it is not entirely saying that they are going to remove people from office. That is not true. We can only have one president. That doesn't mean that we don't have any other function of government that are working. So if you match ministry together, would that reduce the work they are doing? Absolutely not. It will only give room for people to evaluate the assignment and see the performance index of each ministry. So I don't believe that merging ministry together will give room for sacking civil servant. That is not true. Maybe you need to go through the report and understand that there are some certain agencies that can work under ministry than staying alone. Do you know, having a minister in one ministry, it is not easy to form them. So each minister attracted so many paraphernalia of office. So if you're having one minister and having different agencies under them, it is easy for them to manage. It will be easy for the country to manage. Why saving costs?
So the question one will want to ask, here is this: if you are not sacking people, if you are not reducing the workforce so that it will translate into the cutting cost of governance, what then is the essence of implementing this report at this time?
You know, we are having close to, I think, 40-something ministers. So if you're having, for instance, we are having 30 ministers, and you're having agency under the minister. So the salary of minister at the head of agency, that is not true. So thereby you have their position to a director or to. So that is the point we are talking about.
Okay, though I didn't get the last part of your point. Can you take that again?
The point. It is not a must to all the agency. You can bring this agency together, minimize the cost of having a minister in maintaining a minister of the Federal Republic. So if you're having head of agency, the take home of any director to a minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So thereby having a minister on an agency, you have reduced the cost. You have reduced certain costs than having the minister in the position.
Okay. Now, do you agree that government is the largest employer of labor in Nigeria?
Government is what?
Do you agree that government is the largest employer of labor in Nigeria?
depend on the area at which you are looking at. If you are saying government is the largest employer of labor in Nigeria, because there is no, I will agree with you because either we like it or not, Nigeria is a civil service country.
So if that is true, we agree also that Nigeria is a welfarist state where you go into some ministries, you see some staff, you can't actually tell exactly what their job specifications are. But these people at the end of every month, they draw from the funds, the resources of these agencies. And what government understanding is that, of course, these people also have people back home whom they use these salaries and allowances to take care of. Now that we want to implement a report that strictly is targeted at cutting cost of governance for efficiency, and of course it will definitely affect doing away with redundancy, as it were. Don't you foresee crisis as moving forward, particularly with Nigeria Labour Congress, particularly with all these pressure groups who will now rise against the government to say, well, you cannot sack all of these people. Remember what happened in Kaduna State when the governor tried to bring some sanity into the education sector and conducted a test and discovered that some of the people who are supposed teachers are not actually they are not qualified rather to stand in the presence of students as teachers. And he sacked quite a number of them, and there were protests everywhere. So do you foresee this type of labor crisis when this report is eventually fully implemented?
The question will now be, what did Nigeria truly want as a country? What did Nigeria truly want as a country? You see them, on the other hand, complaining that the government is not working. On the other hand, they are complaining that they are being removed from office. Then, what did Nigeria actually want as a country? Everybody must sacrifice. If they truly want a government that works, people must be ready to take, certain, measures. You just mentioned to me that majority of them, you get there, they are not working. So, how are they contributing to the development of the country? Yet they take home salary. So it means that the problem is not even the government after all; it's the people.
But those who argue against the implementation at this time are saying that until government provides a conducive environment in the private sector that will suck up people who will be, removed from office as a result of them not having any specific job, or they are not adding value to the offices they occupy, government must be cautious in implementing this report, especially at this time when we know for a fact that we are at a period of economic crisis. As much as the government is trying its best to, get us out of the woods, if we now add this number of unemployed people into the pool of the already unemployed, that this portends crisis, and government must be very cautious about this. I don't know what you think about that.
Anyway, if you look at it critically, to even start with, we are the problem of ourselves. Having some, having some questionable investment. Have the complaint that the government is not working. If you go, discriminately on the road picking passengers, then bring sanity on the road by arresting them and they are paying fine. They will complain that the masses. So how do we really want as a people? I think, what do we want as a people? What do we want as a people? We are the problem of ourselves. Let's leave government alone. The president cannot be in every ministry. People are being given responsibility to mount those offices. What are they doing? What are the directors of those ministries are doing? What are they doing? What are they doing? So the major problem of this country is the people of Nigeria itself. We need the orientation. You will see people are being given up portfolios and they'll be lobbying for. What is the intention? I mean, what are the intentions? When you are you trying to get that to go and have impact on the masses of the country of Nigeria? Or you are so this still boils down to the people. What do we really want? What are we ready to sacrifice for the country to develop? Of course, I will tell you that government have not done well. It might not be this government. Averagely, give them 40% performance index. You understand? But I can tell you that the people that are being given responsibility in this ministry too are contributing to the effects of what the government they represent. Because the president cannot be in all the ministry. Even the minister cannot be in all the agencies. It is not possible. I read the news where somebody was saying
that
Doctor, mistakenly
of course,
somebody was saying
is already fast spent. I would just want you to, as we wrap up, do you have some words of caution for the government, especially as it proceeds with the implementation of the report, or you think that holistically government should go all out and implement the report regardless of whatever consequences may come, because like you said, it's sacrifices that needed to be made by everyone?
I will employ the government to, while implementing this report, they should also make plans to eliminate the suffering of the masses. Because it is not possible that when somebody is taking daily needs that is cut off and there is no way that can be cushioned. So the government should make programs in such a way that they can, just make, necessary things available for people, like electricity, security. Now people cannot go to farm. Are we saying government are the people in the bush kidnapping people? You understand? So they should make security readily available for the people so that people can go back to farm. And people that want to venture into mechanized farming can also do so. And then, electricity also should be available at the subsidized rate.
All right.
I think with that, we are going somewhere.
All right. I have to say sincere thank you to you, Dr. Seyin Adiola, the National President, Public Office Occupants in Nigeria, for those insights on this very important topic this morning. And it's on this note that we draw the curtains on this segment of the program to go join our Investment Plus team for those financial management tips this morning. When we come back, it will be time to call it a day on Aso Morning. Just stay with us.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Investment Plus. Today we're looking at how you can bounce back from bad debts and start winning again financially. Now, bad debts can be overwhelming, but remember, it doesn't define you as a person. You have the power to rise above it and rebuild your financial future. So let's dive right into the steps that will lead you back to financial success. Step 1 is to face the reality. I always say that the first key to getting out of debt is to be determined. It's like a bulldog determination that, you know what, I'm done. So face reality. You must acknowledge the situation. Stop running away from it. A lot of times when I've worked with people on their debts, we sit down together and look at what's going on, and we find out that, oh, it's not something as bad as they think. But the moment you're overwhelmed, we start to think, oh, it's so bad. Now I know that debt in itself is bad, and I teach that you shouldn't live in debt and all that, but you have to face the situation on ground. The truth is nobody else can change it but you. So avoiding or denying the problem will only prolong your struggle. So what you need to do is to gather all your debt information, how much you owe, who you owe, their interest rates on it, is it their balances and all of that, the payment schedule that you've been given, all the times you've missed and all of that. Get the information together, know exactly where you are. Imagine that you're coming to my place and then you call and say, oh, I'm coming to your place but I missed my way. The first question I'm going to ask you is, where are you? Because that's where I'm going to direct you from. So you need to know exactly where you are with your finances, how much you owe and all of that. Confronting the reality of your debt is the first step towards regaining control over your finances again. So you have to face reality. Step 2 is to create a repayment plan. Now you have to develop a comprehensive repayment plan, and it's quite simple. Don't worry about the word comprehensive. All you need to do is to look at your basic needs for the month, what the figure is. You set that aside because you don't want to use all the money to pay up debts and then now you're hungry and you have to go borrow again. So look at your income, plan what you need to survive on. Now you know what your debt is, and you know how much you're supposed to pay back monthly. You now prioritize them based on the one that has the interest, the one that is giving you the pressure, the most pressure. You allocate your funds to that accordingly. You might consider debt consolidation. Oh, let me take it from everybody and put it in one place. You can consider that. You can negotiate as well. I mean, even if they take you to the police, what they're going to say is, how do you want to pay back? So before it escalates to that level, you need to do the right thing. So go in and negotiate where you know you're already defaulting. Go in and ask for more time. Let them know you're a straight person instead of avoiding calls and telling all sorts of lies that is making the issue more and more aggravated. Now, submit a repayment plan. How do you intend to pay back? How much are you going to pay back? 5,000 is what I have. 10,000 is what I can afford. At this point, I want to recommend that you get a coach, someone who will guide you through this entire process so you can actually start and actually finish, all right? And then gradually you're eliminating each debt one after the other. And step 3 is to cut expenses and increase your income. The truth is you can increase your income. How does money come? Value. If you want more money, provide more value. Solve more problems. That's how it comes. So you need to cut down on unnecessary expenses from your budgets and redirect those funds toward debt repayment. I always say it like this. If you're in debt watching this right now, your only goal this year financially should be to be debt-free. And that's a very good goal. That at the end of this year, I'm going to enter the new year free of debt. So whatever you need to reduce, whatever lifestyle has to change, dining out, entertainment, luxury purchases, all those impulse buying, it has to change so that you can become debt-free. Interestingly, people borrow money to buy things that at the end of the day, they are angry that they bought that thing, and then, you know, you're owing money year on year and you can't get out. It's not the best way to live when it comes to your finances. So whatever way you can increase your income, you have to start looking at it. While you're using what you currently earn to pay down the much you can, you also need to start exploring other options. So you can start a side business, you can decide to freelance, you can seek a higher paying job. That might require you to go to school, that might require you to learn more. Whatever it takes, you need to put in the effort. Every extra naira counts on your journey to financial recovery. It counts. So you need to put it all together towards achieving that financial goal of becoming debt-free. Step 4 is to build a strong financial foundation. So once you started paying back your debt, as a matter of fact, not when you're done, you have to make sure that you build a strong financial foundation. What do I mean? Have an emergency fund. I always say that there are a few reasons people get into debt. Number 1 on the list is that an emergency comes up and you don't have savings for it. But if you build an emergency fund, If anything goes wrong, you are fine, at least sufficiently to an extent. So create an emergency fund. That's like the foundation for this. And while you're paying back debt, set a portion of your income aside towards emergency needs and all those things that might come up that you don't know when they will come up. So set realistic financial goals, develop a budget that aligns with your objectives, invest in your financial education, and explore opportunities for long-term wealth building. By following these steps, you are on the path to financial victory. Remember, setbacks are temporary, and you can have the greatest comebacks of your lifetime. So your determination and resilience are the most important things you need to have in place. Believe in yourself and the power of your actions. As we conclude, I encourage you to stay committed to your financial recovery. Embrace the lessons you've learned from your past challenges. I mean, the debt should teach you something as well. And then let that propel you towards a brighter future. You have the strength within you to bounce back from bad debts and achieve financial victory once again. Thanks for watching today. Until next time, bye for now.
Welcome back from that very important segment of financial, of Investment Plus, where of course you get to learn some financial tips. Every kobo counts in your journey to financial recovery. It's what I picked there. So make sure you get those tips and you work with them, because that's the whole essence of that very important segment. And that's the much we have for you on today's edition of Aso Morning. We